I don't think Toriyama or Toei like Tenshinhan. Allow me to expatiate through examples of Tien being doo-doo. Okay, so this is every attack Tien ever attempted in Super. Seriously. Episode 21. Frieza sends his goons to attack the guys. So, this is a good enough opening for Tien. These guys are stated to be weaker than Frieza's original army, which typically had a power level of like 1200. So, these guys are probably weaker generally than Raditz was. Not really much of an obstacle, but whatever. It gives, everyone something to do. So after about 10 minutes of Roshi and Krillin scenes, we've finished this off with a Kikoho that hits two guys. And that's it. Remember this move. It's what Tien does anytime the writers are forced to use him because no one on the staff actually seems to give a shit about it. Hey, keep it up, buddy. Episode 89. Yes, we were at 21. Now it's episode 89. That's how bad it is. Tournament of Power is starting up. Goku is going around gathering fighters. I shit you not, he and everyone else actually forget about Tenshinhan. They can't think of him. They're thinking about, who will we bring on board? We can name off all these people. Who will be the last one? We have no idea. They don't know. They can't even think of him. When everyone is sitting around brainstorming this shit, not a single character actually says, what about Tien? Why don't we bring him? No one thinks of him. They do think of Roshi, though. So the only reason why Goku even shows up to look for Tien is because he's actually looking for Roshi, and Oolong reminds him, hey, Tien exists. So Roshi is over at Tien's new dojo. And he's only over there because he's looking for pussy, right? Because he's Roshi, right? He's actually been made like an honorary master, but he's not training anyone, and he's bored and doesn't actually want to even be there. Tien just invited him. So even Roshi forgot that Tien exists. So, this is Toriyama's one attempt to advance Tenshinhan's character. He has a dojo, where he teaches a bunch of faceless nobodies. None of these assholes even know what ki even is. Like, Tien demonstrates it, and they're just mystified. Good teaching there, Tien. Great job. Now, let me set the stage here. Super Era Toriyama got told by someone at Toei, you can't keep shitting on all your characters and jerking off to Goku exclusively. Make them stronger, goddammit. Just fucking do it. So all the prior episodes, up till now, have been Goku going around being surprised at how great everyone is. In the Krillin episodes, he actually outwits Gohan, and then outmaneuvers Goku a few times before Goku tries to just overpower him. 18 steps in, and the whole lesson is that Goku is actually the one being stupid for thinking the tournament is going to be all about just overpowering enemies with brute force. And this is after a long series of episodes about how Krillin had given up fighting and was so weak that bullets were now a serious danger to him. So he got a shitlicious power-up. That is a Toriyama handjob. When Goku goes to recruit 17, Android 17, he just gets the shit kicked out of him. 17 uses his vast powers gained by being a park ranger to just beat the crap out of Goku. Now, Super doesn't deal with power levels, really, so much as it deals with tiers of power. And 17 is established as he's up there somewhere. It doesn't really specify where exactly, but he's fucking strong. Because he never gets tired, so he doesn't need to sleep, so he spends all of his free time, and his work time for that matter, alone on an island doing nothing but training. Plus, the motherfucker was basically born as strong as a Super Saiyan in the Cell Saga, right? Like, whenever he was modified, his base point, like level 0, was strong as a Super Saiyan. So put training on top of that. That is another Toriyama handjob. Now, motherfucking Boo doesn't even go to the tournament. He's not even in the tournament. He was born the most evil, powerful baby bubblegum in the universe somehow. So even as Fat Boo, he trains and turns into Floyd Pinkweather, then proceeds to just beat up on Goku and prove that he's a, quote, genius at fighting. That's a Toriyama handjob. Piccolo and Gohan, okay? We'll come back to this one, don't you worry. But consider this. Gohan has trained probably for about 4 or 5 years grand total his whole life. 1 year when Piccolo abducted him, plus the month or so on Namek. Then 3 years off and on, again with the shit in between Trunks showing up and the android showing up. Then another year in the Room of Spirit and Time before his crybaby battle with Cell. After that, he doesn't train at all, and he needs Elder Kai to bullshit his power level back up, so he can humiliate himself by being outsmarted by an enemy he called a retard a few minutes earlier. Right? Right. So, he doesn't train any past that either. So when he fights Frieza again, he's a weak baby bitch. He might work out a little bit in between then and now, but he's still incredibly weak. Piccolo not only brings back out the ultimate form for Gohan, but also retcons it so it's not just max power, it's just another path or whatever. Marketing power, right? In addition, even after doing this, Gohan still loses to Piccolo, and Gohan even remarks how fucking strong Piccolo has gotten off screen. It's crazy. Sound familiar? Everybody gets a Toriyama handjob. Everybody. Everybody is so strong and handsome. Wow, guys. Such a nice ass on everybody. It's fantastic, really. Okay, so we get to the Tien episode. What happens? He's got a school of untalented background characters. He can't teach worth a shit. He barely has any lines of dialogue, and the episode turns into a Roshi episode where he literally attempts to rape a new character. Might need to have a talk with Japan about this one. By the way, that new character, transparently supposed to be Launch's replacement. Acts vaguely like her, she's fat bait, and they bullshit in the background to connect her to Tien, even though none of it actually ever happened. She's just brand new. So long, my beautiful gold princess, we hardly knew ye. So, Tien vanishes from his own episode for most of it. He shows back up after Roshi is mind-controlled into going on a rampage. Roshi, who is described as being useless as a fighter midway through the original Dragon Ball. You know, when Tien was the strongest character in the series. And a villain? Yeah. Let's see what happens. Oh. Well, he slapped him in the face a couple times. And look, he grew 4 arms. Remember that? Oh. So, Goku steps in, easily deals with the problem, and even declares that Roshi has been concealing his training and his true power. That's right, Roshi got an off-screen power-up too. That's a Toriyama handjob. At the time, people generally ignored this. A few people commented on how much of a chump Tien looked like, but most people making videos talked about how cool Roshi was and how fun the episode was. Whatever. Because, in the preview, we see Tien and Goku fighting against Gohan and Piccolo, so everyone kind of just ignored it. What happens there? Well, the point of this training is supposedly for everyone to learn to work together. And Tien gets paired with Goku. Yeah, Goku. So, you know where this is going. Oh, looking good. Don't worry, Tien, you're the only one left. You'll get that handjob soon, really, it's okay. You'll get that handjob soon. So, while Goku and Gohan fight, Tien is still recovering from that one punch. And Goku tells him, fuck off and deal with Piccolo. I'm busy, right? Teamwork. Yeah. So, Goku gets knocked away and watches while Gohan interrupts Tien again and axe handles him through the planet. Still waiting on that handjob. Still waiting on it. Tien's erection was ready to go. Not a hand in sight, Toriyama-san. Not a hand in sight. So, Tien is like, okay, the writers are tired of using me, I know it. My episode is now a Gohan episode. The last one was a Roshi episode. This is now a Gohan episode. You just take my shit. Just take it. Take my episodes. I'm going to die soon if this continues. And he leaves. He just leaves. That is a Toriyama handjob. For Gohan. The second one that he's gotten. Hell, that's like the 10th one if you go back to Z. This motherfucker hasn't earned a single thing his whole goddamn life. Just keeps getting plot magicked up to everyone else's power level because of all the kids that saw the Cell fight when they were 12. Anyways, okay. Terminator power. Yeah, that's right, he didn't do anything. For another 11 episodes. In this episode, Roshi has a scene where he scares Not Cell into shitting his britches. He completely overpowers Senior Bugman, and then Tien falls off a rock and uses a Kikoho. That's it. On the plus side, this is the first attack in the entire series that Tien lands against an enemy that isn't a Frieza foot soldier. First one. Because he grew arms and got blasted by Roshi, he tried the Kikoho Piccolo and couldn't even get that one off. So this is it. And the enemy didn't even have a name and hadn't even been in any scenes or fights up until this moment. Wow, what a moment for Tien. We pretend Roshi was in trouble somehow and jump ahead another 5 episodes. By the way, I will remind you, this is every attack that Tien has attempted in the series. If I just listed all the ones that were successful, we would probably start here. So this is it. This is now the Tien episode. I shit you not, it just came out. Toriyama was giving out hand jobs and totally forgot, so he's gonna make up for it. This is gonna be the Tien episode finally. He got the Roshi episode took over his episode before of his dumb generic dojo that didn't work, and Gohan took over the other one. So now it's time for Tien. It's Tien's time to shine. It's the Tien show. Toriyama finally remembers Tenshinhan exists. He's real. He's an actual character. We forgot about it. I shit you not, in some scenes, they didn't even animate him in frame. Of all of them standing together, sometimes he's just not even there. That's how little Toei gives a shit about him. But Toriyama does remember that he does exist. He didn't just get eliminated off frame like everyone anticipated. So, set up. In the prior episode, Roshi is a fucking badass. He has a hard-on. Like, he has a raging hard-on. But he pushes it back down, it's peeking out of his pants, he pushes it back down into his trousers, and then eliminates the girl that was causing it, because she thought that he was going to rape her, so she runs off the stage. Japan, you and me, I gotta explain one or two things to you. But later. You just hang around for a minute after this. So, after this, he eliminates not Naruto, and fights an 8-year-old who turns into Howard the Duck. It's cool. Trust me, it's cool. It's cool. He nearly dies. Everyone gets all emotional. It's a very emotional scene. He surpasses his limits yet again. He comes back to life. And the episode after this next one, he gets even more screen time. You know, they say that you can feel the love for a character coming off the paper sometimes. You can feel it here. Toriyama wrote his notes. Toei read the notes. Everyone else was on board. The animators were on board. Everyone's on board. Best episode of the tournament, some people said. Of the tournament so far, it's been the best episode. Okay. Next episode. Tien's episode. Spoilers. This is the worst episode of the tournament, people said about this one. You know that shit about love coming off the page? Same thing is true about contempt or total indifference. That's what Tien gets. Sloppy writing, people acting out of character. Everyone has issues with a fairly weak enemy that could have been countered very easily. No one has any emotional reaction to its consequences at all. Okay, so in this episode, a green duck is firing lasers at a fat man that makes terrarium globes that reflect the lasers into primarily Piccolo's arms. They're arm-seeking lasers. They seek arm. Tien shows up about halfway through all this, and he just looks terrified. So, no one can figure this out. Oh wait, Vegeta figured it out. Yeah, the stage is made of the strongest material in the multiverse, so you can just use it as a shield. That's what you do. You pick up the rocks, and you hold the rock in front of your face. And so the lasers can't go through, like, hit your face. And then you throw the rock when you want to. That's the ticket. That's the trick. You throw rocks at him. That was the secret, of course. So even after Goku and Vegeta figure out where Fat Man is, and he can't even reflect lasers anymore, Tien's bright idea is to make 3 more of himself and then run across open terrain directly at the sniper. The actual sniper is no longer even really a threat, because he was relying totally on the Michelin Man to aim for him. You could make 4 of yourself and then just use cover to go find him. Not a big deal. Especially since you have 3 eyes and 4 bodies. And they all share vision with one another. And all of them can reform and then make more clones of themselves. So, by my advanced equations, that's a baker's dozen vision. He could see every donut. But no, they all just died except for the real one. It's fine. So Tien face fucks the ground until he literally just runs up to the sniper and Kiko hoes a rock. It's a great fight. With that one thing that he did. Then he walks up to him and the enemy blasts the ground. Tien is eliminated. Considering Savage Dragon here was on the edge of the ring, don't ask me how Tien fell and this guy didn't. He would have to have jumped over Tien. I guess Tien forgot how to jump too. But then there's a big reveal that Tien has made more clones before he got eliminated. So I guess they're still legal even though Tien was eliminated? Okay, stop here. If that was the real Tien, why did he lead with the real him? Why not lead with a clone? In fact, I was under the impression that there was no real clone, that they were all him. As long as one of them survives, since they all are his body and all have his key, he can... You know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. Even if it wasn't the real one, the 3 clones show up, grab Black a bird, and jump off with him. And they somehow fall faster than Tien did, so they actually catch up and have a nice chat about it on the way down. And you can't say they flew because flying is disabled as a rule right now. Could you have used 2 of them? 2 clones? Grab him, fall, whatever? The third one isn't even doing anything, he's just holding his neck. Or better yet, just keep the other 3 out of sight and just go get help and deal with him later. Point being, this whole sequence is really stupid. It's poorly written, it's not clever, no one does anything interesting in a series about fighting, like they did in the prior episode. It's just a sloppy mess, punctuated with a character intentionally losing for no reason other than Toriyama just didn't want to bother with him anymore. And Vegeta even sums this up really well. Goku points out, it looks like Tenshinhan got eliminated, and Vegeta's response to this is, who cares? Great. That's a great... After the Roshi episode, a perfect way to punctuate Tien's loss. Perfect. Remember the whole thing about feeling the contempt coming off the page? Well, Tien didn't have many pages in Super. But every one of them is full of some bizarre, barely restrained loathing for this character. The most respect he ever got was slapping random Frieza soldiers in the face. Go back to Dragon Ball for a second. Let's talk about what Tien actually is. He is human. Now, even this is stupid. People often say he's an alien because 3 eyes. I guess Krillin isn't human either because, he doesn't canonically have a nose. Thanks, Bacterian. First off, Chiaotzu, designed to look like a Chinese vampire. Tien, Chinese mysticism. Even their names are after Chinese food. The whole 3-eye thing is a reference in design to him having opened his 3rd eye, which supposedly everyone has, via training. China. Toriyama is Toriyama, so he never elaborates on it. There's no explanation. They're basically just China, the characters. That's what they are. So that's why he actually has 3 eyes, if you're wondering. It's just a design thing. The whole spiel about him being an alien comes from some QA segments in some old Daizenshus back in 95 and 96, where they say, apparently he is a descendant of the 3-eyed people, which isn't elaborated on at all. There's no explanation for it. It's just barely even mentioned. Whose ass they pulled this from? We don't know exactly. We can assume Toriyama. But since he never talks about Tien, who fucking knows? Who knows? But this goes hand in hand with the whole Krillin is the strongest human bullshit. Tien was stronger than Krillin in Dragon Ball, obviously. That was the whole point. He was a villain who turned good. He was stronger than Master Roshi and even beat Goku in the tournament. He was stronger than Krillin. And he eventually became a good guy. At the start of Z, he was stronger than Krillin. We even get power level readouts of him being stronger. You can see it on screen. The only point where Krillin may have gotten stronger is on Namek, when Guru plot deviced him up some and Tien was training on Kyle's world. By the way, that isn't filler, that's also in the manga as a common misconception. After Namek, it gets muddy, but Krillin gives up martial arts, which is the main point. Twice, in fact. He gives it up twice, and is harmed by bullets in Super. Yet somehow, he's the strongest human, according to Toriyama. He's stronger than a man that has trained his entire life and does absolutely nothing else. And you know why? Because he's Goku's best friend, and a secondary main character. And that's it. So in Kira's head, he must be the strongest human, because he's Goku's best friend. He's gotta be. More to the point, because he doesn't give a single shit about Tien. And that's why I bring all that up. It has nothing to do with the technicality of him being an alien or whatever. That's horseshit people have been, in Japan and America, have been spewing to try to rationalize why all this is going on. The actual answer is, Japan does not care about Tien. That's the actual answer. Is it because he's Chinese, Toei? Is that it? Did you make Gohan punch Tien in the gut because he's from Space China? Racist. Naughty, naughty Toei. So, Toriyama, Toei, and most of the fan base has forgotten how dangerous Tien is supposed to be. 1. He has a shit ton of moves. This is Dragon Ball, so the majority were actual, combination blows instead of just, ki blast after ki blast. Most of them were pretty visceral, like headbutts or machine gun punches and shit like that. The point being, he was an expert in hand-to-hand combat. But he also had the Dodon Pa. Like, Roshi claimed it was stronger than the Kamehameha, and it was also faster to use. It was also more overtly lethal. I get the impression of that. And this is probably why Roshi used the Kamehameha in the first place. So, do you remember the Dodon Pa? You remember that? Yep, no one does. No one does. Solar Flare. For some reason, Super thinks Krillin invented the Solar Flare for some bizarre reason. Nope, it's Tien's move. It's Tien's. And of course, the meat and potatoes, Tien's ability to make multiple versions of himself and his ability to make multiple versions of his own limbs. I have no fucking clue if this is a reference to something, why it exists, but he's got it. He's got it, baby. And of course, the Kiko Ho. Stop for a moment. Remember how Raditz was running from Goku's Kamehameha? Remember this? Because it had a power level of 1200. And Raditz also had a power level of 1200. So Raditz eventually got tired of running from this thing, stopped, turned around, and canceled out the attack entirely. Like, this is the original concept behind power levels. Earthlings, supposedly unlike anywhere else in the universe, this is a plot point that kind of got dropped very quickly, learned how to power themselves up and how to make attacks stronger than the user is. Whereas everyone else in the universe, you were born at this power level, that's what your power level was, your attacks will have this exact power level exactly, so forth and so on. Goku, despite being nowhere near even a power level of 500, was able to make an attack with a power level of 1200. Point being, if you want to say, hold down a Bugman with a power level in the millions down into a square hole, you need to hit him with an attack that is that same power level. They can neutralize his own power level. Kiko Ho. That's how fucking strong the attack actually is. Even in Dragon Ball, Roshi flips the fuck out whenever he sees it, and describes it as a forbidden move that harms the user because of how powerful it actually is. It has a shit ton of blowback. Probably most importantly, Tien and Chiaotzu both can copy a move by only seeing it once. Toriyama, he loves this shit. He does it anytime he wants to show how skilled an enemy actually is, intrinsically. Like, if they're a genius at fighting, they see a move one time, they can do it one time. Tien is able to use the Kamehameha just from seeing it. In fact, energy attacks, ki attacks don't even work on Tien. He's supposedly so skilled that he's able to neutralize them with a ki. He fucking screams at the thing and it just evaporates into nothing. He's also psychic. He can communicate with people telepathically and he can move shit with his mind. Just to put icing on this man-meat cake. That's how much he was getting over in Dragon Ball. So don't tell me that Tien isn't skilled enough. Let me point this out. What is Tien's goal in life? Now, Yamcha is treated as a joke in almost a reverent way. Like, people love him. Everyone loves Yamcha. He's not a fighter because he never really was. He uses his training to sleep around with women and make millions playing baseball. He's a bandit that became a very successful celebrity. That's his goal. What does Tien do all day? He trains. That's all he does. He makes money here and there doing odd jobs to supply his goal of being the strongest martial artist in the world. When Goku finally surpasses him, he promised to catch up. It's all he does. That's his life. And he's the weakest member of the cast now, not counting Yamcha, who's a millionaire sports star who gave up fighting in the first place. He's weaker than Roshi, the guy who himself retired after fighting and losing to Tien. So, even after the Cell fight, you can see Toriyama trying to sweep Tien under the rug forever. He literally shows up just to say, "This is goodbye, you will probably never see me again." And then he leaves, and no one notices. That's how little of a shit Toriyama gives about Tien. And you'll wonder why he's a joke in Super, because no one at Toei gives a shit about him either. How pathetic of a life has Tien had? The man is nearly in his 50s in Super. He was at the end of Z. His only objective in life is to be the strongest in the world, and to master martial arts. And he's been relegated to showing up, trying to use one move, because that's the only move anyone remembers him ever doing, and then being swept off screen for the next 20 episodes or more. He had a potential romance in Launch, who was wiped out of existence because her having blonde hair is too confusing to our tiny primate brains, although he didn't love her either way. She's a horrifying story in and of itself. So he has nothing, except for the friendship of a 50-year-old vampire midget that can't count, unless he uses his hands. So Tien peaked in his teens. He wanted to be the strongest, he wanted to be an expert in martial arts, and now he only knows one move, and he's the weakest member of the cast. He has no family, and he has no backstory. And he has no future. While everyone else got handjob power-ups off-screen, he was the only one in the show who not only was not said to have gotten stronger, but actually was shown to have gotten much worse. Dude has received no respect at all. Japan hates Tien. Not really sure why. Don't know why. Fucking hates him. And worse still, here in America, barely anyone cares. If you watch review videos, people mutter a few lines about how it was kind of weird he didn't do anything, but usually they don't even mention him. They usually just show him getting one-shotted by Gohan with his 5 years of martial arts training, against Tien's 40 years, doing him no good at all, and comment about how cool it is that Gohan did that. He's so cool for axe-handling Tien into the planet. So I guess America hates Tien too. Everyone hates Tien. He's a living joke of a man, with no love or success in his life. Hey, maybe he'll end up with Urine. That's the new girl that they brought in, by the way. Her name is actually Urine. I'm not kidding. Her name is literally Piss. They didn't think about it. But his greatest accomplishment in life, I guess, was when he nearly died, just holding the worst form of a villain in place, so that Krillin could later impregnate the supermodel that he was chasing. So, good job, Tien. Maybe you'll be allowed to miss another Kikoho 50 episodes from now. Good luck, buddy. Good luck.